There's something rather peculiar about the way we talk about following Jesus. We speak of it as an invitation to peace, to comfort, to a better life. And in a sense, all of that is true. But I wonder if we've been telling only half the story, perhaps even less than half. You've heard the invitations, haven't you? Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Beautiful words, true words. But what we often forget is what Jesus said next, and more importantly, what he said when the crowds weren't listening anymore. Because there's a version of Christianity that's been marketed to us. A glossy, comfortable version where Jesus exists primarily to make your life easier, your bank account fuller, your relationship smoother. Follow him and everything will work out. Follow him and you'll be blessed, protected, successful. And yet, when you actually read the words of Christ, when you look at what happened to those who truly followed him, you find something quite different. You find danger. Real danger. Not the kind that makes for inspiring Instagram posts, but the kind that costs you everything you thought gave your life meaning. I want to suggest something to you today that might sound strange, perhaps even heretical to some. What if following Christ is not the safest decision you'll ever make, but the most destabilizing? What if the invitation to come and follow me is actually an invitation into a kind of beautiful destruction? Now, Jesus never hid this from his closest disciples. He told them plainly. He spoke of crosses and deaths and losses. He warned them they would be hated, persecuted, misunderstood. But to the crowds? To the masses who came for the miracles and the free bread? He spoke in parables. He kept certain truths veiled. And I think there's a reason for that. Because not everyone is ready to hear what discipleship actually costs. Not everyone wants to know that the path to abundant life runs directly through the death of everything you've been clinging to. So here we are. And if you're still listening, perhaps you're one of the ones who's ready to hear it. The danger of walking with Christ. What Jesus never told the crowds. Let's begin with the first danger, shall we? Have you ever sat at a table with people you've known your entire life and felt like you don't belong there anymore? Not because they've changed, but because you have. Not because you're better than them, but because you're different now. You're seeing with different eyes. Speaking a different language. Living according to a different logic. This is the first danger of following Christ. The profound, often painful isolation that comes when your values shift and your old world doesn't shift with you. Jesus said something that we like to skip over in our cozy church services. He said, "I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. I came to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother." Harsh words, aren't they? Uncomfortable words. But watch what happens when someone truly begins to follow Christ. Watch how their relationships begin to fracture. Not because they're being judgmental. Not because they're condemning everyone around them. But simply because their presence has become a mirror that others cannot bear to look into. When you begin to see the world as Christ sees it, when you start to value what he values and reject what he rejects, something strange happens. The people who loved you before still love you, but they don't recognize you anymore. And more troubling still, you don't quite recognize yourself. You're at a party and everyone's getting drunk, and you used to be right there with them, but now you're watching it from somewhere else. Not judging, necessarily, but separate. You're at a family gathering and everyone's gossiping, tearing someone apart with their words, and you feel this tension in your chest because you know you're supposed to speak, but if you do, you'll ruin the whole evening. Or perhaps it's subtler than that. Perhaps it's just that your old friends don't call anymore. Not because there was a fight, but because the connection has quietly dissolved. You've grown interested in different things. You speak about meaning and purpose, and they want to talk about comfort and entertainment. And neither of you is wrong, but you're walking different paths now. Jesus said, "Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me." And we read that and think it's about priority, about ranking. But it's deeper than that. It's about the reality that following Christ will often require you to choose between him and the approval of everyone you've ever loved. And this is lonely, profoundly lonely. Because you're not leaving people out of arrogance or self-righteousness. You're simply walking a path they cannot see and do not want to follow. You're speaking a truth they're not ready to hear. And your very presence, your transformation, becomes an accusation they never asked for. The danger here is real, because human beings are not designed for isolation. We need belonging. We need tribe. And when you follow Christ, truly follow Him, you will lose your tribe. The old one anyway. And you might spend years walking alone before you find the new one. If anyone tells you that following Jesus will make you more popular, more accepted, more comfortable in your social circles, they're either lying or they've never actually followed Him. The first danger is this: you will become a stranger in your own life. And that is only the beginning. Now we come to something even more disturbing. Jesus said, "Take up your cross daily and follow me." We've heard this so many times that the words have lost their horror. Let me remind you what a cross was. It was an execution device. It was the place where you went to die. So when Jesus says, "Take up your cross," He's not speaking metaphorically about mild inconvenience. He's speaking about death. Your death. The death of the person you thought you were. The death of the identity you've been constructing your entire life. This is the second danger. The crucifixion of the small self. The ego. The carefully curated image. The story you've been telling yourself about who you are and what you deserve and how the world should treat you. Western Christianity has sanitized this teaching almost beyond recognition. We've turned dying to self into a quaint spiritual practice, something you do for 15 minutes in the morning during your quiet time. But that's not what Jesus meant. He meant the complete surrender of your claim on your own life. The total relinquishment of control. The terrifying moment when you stop trying to write your own story and allow God to write it instead, even if His version includes chapters you would never choose. I've watched this happen to people. I've seen someone give up a lucrative career because God called them to something that pays nothing. I've seen relationships end, not because of sin or betrayal, but because they could not continue and still maintain obedience to Christ. I've seen dreams die. Good dreams. Beautiful dreams. Dreams that seemed holy and pure, but that had to be surrendered because they were the wrong dreams, or perhaps the right dreams at the wrong time. And here's what nobody tells you: this hurts. It hurts more than you can imagine, because you are not just losing things external to yourself. You are losing yourself. The self you've spent decades building. The self that knows what it wants and how to get it. The self that has plans and ambitions and a clear sense of identity. Jesus said, "Whoever loses their life for my sake will find it." But before the finding, there must be the losing. And the losing feels like death because it is death. Not metaphorical death. Not symbolic death. Actual psychological, emotional, spiritual death. You stand at a crossroads and God asks you to go left, but everything in you wants to go right. And you absolutely know that if you go left, you will lose something precious. Maybe you'll lose your reputation. Maybe you'll lose your security. Maybe you'll lose the future you've been planning. And the question is, will you do it anyway? Will you surrender even this? Even the good things? Even the things that aren't sinful but are simply not His will for you? This is where most people stop. This is where the crowds that followed Jesus for the miracles and the teachings quietly turn around and go home. Because they wanted a better version of themselves. They wanted Jesus to add to their lives. They didn't want to give up their lives entirely. But that's what He asks. Not improvement. Not modification. Complete surrender. Daily death. The cross you carry every single morning when you wake up and choose His will over yours, even when His will makes no sense and costs you everything. The second danger is this: you must die. Not eventually, not symbolically, but daily, truly, in ways that strip you down to nothing so that Christ can become everything. And there is no way around this. Only through it. Here's something else they don't often mention in the prosperity gospel. The moment you step into the light, you become visible to the darkness. And the darkness does not simply ignore you. It comes after you. Jesus told His disciples, "If the world hates you, remember that it hated me first." This wasn't theoretical. This was practical warning. Because there is a cost to standing for truth in a world that has made peace with lies. There is a price for choosing holiness in a culture that celebrates sin. There is danger in aligning yourself with Christ in a world that crucified him. Now, I'm not speaking here about manufactured persecution. I'm not talking about Christians who make themselves obnoxious and then claim they're being persecuted for their faith when people simply find them insufferable. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about genuine opposition that comes simply from walking in obedience. The kind of resistance Paul described when he said, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world." When you genuinely follow Christ, when you begin to live according to kingdom values rather than worldly logic, you become a threat. Not because you're attacking anyone, but because your very existence challenges the systems and structures that keep people comfortable in their sin. You'll be labeled. Oh, how you'll be labeled. Judgmental, intolerant, narrow-minded, self-righteous, hypocritical. And sometimes these labels will come from other Christians, from people inside the church who are comfortable with a tame, domesticated version of Jesus and are deeply uncomfortable with anyone who takes him seriously. You'll speak truth and be called hateful. You'll show love and be called weak. You'll stand firm and be called rigid. You'll show grace and be called compromised. There is no winning. There is only obedience, and the cost of that obedience is often misunderstanding, misrepresentation, and outright hostility. But it's not just social. It's spiritual. When you step into your calling, when you begin to do kingdom work, you will notice something peculiar. Suddenly, everything seems harder. Doubt floods in. Depression you haven't felt in years resurfaces. Relationships that were stable begin to crack. Opportunities that seemed certain suddenly collapse. This is not paranoia. This is warfare. Because the enemy of your soul does not care about the lukewarm. He doesn't bother with the comfortable Christians who pose no threat. But the moment you become dangerous, the moment you step into your purpose and begin to push back darkness, you will feel the pushback. Jesus warned about this. He said the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And his primary targets are those who are becoming most like Christ. Because if he can take you out, if he can discourage you, isolate you, confuse you, make you doubt everything, then he can neutralize the light you carry. The third danger is this: the more you walk with Christ, the more you will attract opposition. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something right. And the darkness hates the light. It always has. It always will. Now we come to perhaps the most overlooked danger of all. When you walk closely with Christ, when you begin to see through his eyes and feel with his heart, you will carry a weight that most people never experience. You will feel the suffering of others as if it were your own. Jesus wept. He wept over Jerusalem. He was moved with compassion for the crowds. He felt deeply. And as you become more like him, you will feel deeply too. Perhaps too deeply. You'll sit across from someone at coffee, and while they're talking about surface things, you'll sense the desperation underneath. You'll scroll through social media, and behind every curated, perfect image, you'll feel the loneliness, the anxiety, the desperate search for validation. You'll watch the news and you won't just see events, you'll feel the agony of a broken world. And here's the danger: you'll want to fix it, all of it. You'll want to carry everyone's burden. You'll want to rescue, to heal, to save. And you'll exhaust yourself trying to be Jesus for people when Jesus himself is already available to them. Scripture tells us to bear one another's burdens, and this is good and right. But there's a difference between bearing someone's burden and taking it from them entirely. There's a difference between compassion and codependency, between intercession and inappropriate responsibility. I've watched people destroy themselves with empathy. Beautiful, sensitive souls who so deeply felt the pain of the world that they lost themselves in it. They gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left to give, and they collapsed under the weight of suffering that was never theirs to carry. Jesus carried our sins, our sorrows, our infirmities. That was his unique calling. Your calling is not to be Christ. It's to point people to Christ. And this requires boundaries that might feel cruel but are actually merciful. Because if you absorb everyone's pain, if you try to save everyone, if you pour yourself out without ever allowing yourself to be filled, you will burn out. And when you burn out, you help no one. Not yourself. Not them. Not the kingdom. The fourth danger is this: Walking with Christ will open your heart in ways that hurt. You will feel what he feels. And his heart breaks constantly for a world that rejects him. But you must learn the difference between feeling with people and losing yourself in their pain. Between compassion and dissolution of self. This is wisdom that comes slowly and often painfully. But it must come, or you will not survive the journey. But now, let me tell you something that changes everything. These dangers I've described, they are real. Every word of it is true. Following Christ will isolate you, crucify you, make you a target, and break your heart open. All of this is the cost. But here's what you must understand. These dangers are only dangerous when you don't know what they're for. When you think something has gone wrong. When you believe that this suffering is meaningless or that God has abandoned you in it. The truth is this: the danger is the point. The suffering is the path. Not because God is cruel, but because transformation only happens under pressure. Because you cannot be resurrected until you've died. Because the old self must be crucified before the new self can emerge. Jesus knew all of this. He knew what he was asking. And he still said, "Follow me." Not because he wanted to destroy you, but because he wanted to remake you. Not to diminish your life, but to give you life abundant, though that abundance looks nothing like what the world calls abundance. The isolation? It teaches you that your identity is not found in the approval of others, but in the love of God. The death of self? It removes everything false so that only what's true remains. The opposition? It refines you, strengthens you, proves the genuineness of your faith. The broken heart? It makes you capable of genuine love, genuine compassion, genuine ministry. This is the alchemy of discipleship. The transformation of suffering into glory. The conversion of death into resurrection life. But you must consent to it. You must enter into it consciously, willingly, knowing that every loss is leading somewhere, that every death is birth into something greater. Paul said, "I want to know Christ and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of sharing in his sufferings, becoming like him in his death." Notice the order. Before resurrection power comes suffering. Before exaltation comes crucifixion. This is always the pattern. The danger transforms when you stop resisting it and start surrendering to it. When you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What are you forming in me through this?" When you stop demanding that God remove the pressure and start trusting that he's using the pressure to create something precious. The turning point is this: the moment you realize that the danger is not your enemy, but your teacher. That the difficulty is not evidence of God's absence, but evidence of his intimate involvement in your transformation. So how do you do this? How do you walk this dangerous path without being destroyed by it? Let me offer you some wisdom, hard-won by those who've walked before you. First, you must learn to rest. Even Jesus withdrew. He went to lonely places to pray. He slept during storms. He knew that constant output without input is not faithfulness, it's foolishness. You are not required to be available to everyone all the time. You are not obligated to carry every burden or solve every problem. There is a time to act and a time to rest, and knowing the difference is crucial. Second, find your people. The narrow path is narrow, yes, but you're not the only one on it. There are others. Others who see what you see, who've paid the costs you're paying, who understand the language you're speaking. Find them. They exist. And when you find them, hold on to them, because you will need each other for the journey ahead. Third, learn discernment. Learn when to speak and when to be silent. Learn which battles are yours to fight and which ones belong to someone else. Learn what God is actually asking you to do versus what you think you should do based on guilt or obligation. Not every need is a call. Not every opportunity is divine appointment. Fourth, surrender outcomes. This is perhaps the hardest. You must learn to obey without controlling the results of your obedience. You must learn to plant seeds without demanding to see the harvest. You must trust that God will complete what he's begun, even when you see no evidence of progress. And fifth, remember that God doesn't call you to self-destruction. He calls you to self-surrender, and there's a difference. The cross kills what needs to die so that what's meant to live can flourish. But God is not a sadist. He's a father. And everything he asks, he provides the grace to accomplish. Jesus said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." This sounds impossible given everything I've said, doesn't it? But it's true. Not because following him is easy, but because he carries the weight with you. The burden is light not in its absence, but in its shared bearing. You are not walking this path alone. You never were. And that changes everything. So here we are, at the end of this exploration. And I want to leave you with something crucial. Yes, walking with Christ is dangerous. Yes, it will cost you everything. Yes, you will suffer in ways you cannot imagine and would not choose. But it is also the most beautiful life possible. Because in losing yourself, you find your true self. In dying, you discover what it means to truly live. In surrendering your plans, you step into a story far greater than any you could have written. In walking through the darkness, you become a carrier of light. There is a joy in this life that coexists with the suffering. A deep, unshakable joy that has nothing to do with circumstances and everything to do with knowing you're exactly where you're meant to be, doing exactly what you were created for. Paul called it sorrowful yet always rejoicing. It's possible. It's real. And you become something in the process. Something rare and precious. You become like him. Not perfectly. Not completely, not yet. But progressively. Gradually. His character forms in you. His love flows through you. His light shines from you. This is the privilege we often overlook. The privilege of knowing Christ not just as Savior, but as companion. Of sharing in his sufferings, yes, but also in his mission, his heart, his purposes. Of becoming a living extension of his presence in a world that desperately needs him. And you will find others. I promise you this. As you walk this dangerous path, you will encounter fellow travelers. And there's a recognition that happens. A knowing. You'll lock eyes with someone across a crowded room and just know they've walked through fire too. They've paid the costs. They understand. And in those moments, the isolation doesn't hurt as much. Because you realize you're part of something. A company of the scarred and beautiful. The broken and remade. The crucified and resurrected. A peculiar people who've counted the cost and decided Jesus is worth it. Paul said, "I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us." He was right. There's a weight of glory coming, an eternal substance being formed through every trial, every loss, every act of obedience. You can't see it yet, but it's real. It's being built. And one day it will be revealed. So yes, following Christ is dangerous. But so is being truly alive. And if you're going to risk your life on anything, if you're going to pour yourself out for any cause, if you're going to walk any dangerous path, walk this one. Because this path, narrow and hard as it is, leads to life. Real life. Abundant life. Eternal life. The danger is real. But so is the promise. So is the presence. So is the power. So is the glory. And when you finally see him face to face, when you stand before the one who called you out of comfort and into adventure, out of safety and into surrender, you will realize something profound. Every danger was worth it. Every cost was necessary. Every tear had meaning. Every loss led to gain. You will look back on the dangerous path and you will not regret a single step. Because it led you to him. And he is worth everything. So if you hear the call, if you feel the pull, if something in you resonates with this dangerous invitation, don't resist it. Don't domesticate it. Don't try to make it safe. Say yes. Pick up your cross. Follow him into the unknown. Walk the dangerous path. Because on the other side of the danger is a beauty you cannot imagine. A life you cannot earn. A joy you cannot manufacture. A glory you cannot create. It's all there, waiting. In him. Through him. With him. The danger is the invitation. And the invitation is to life. True life. His life. Will you take it?